Alright guys, so today we will go ahead and install the camshafts into the engine. I'm sorry about the audio. For some reason the audio was not working on this particular time. Even though I had everything plugged in, the microphone didn't seem to pick up anything. But in this part you will see me unbox the camshaft, which essentially was identical to what the one that came out of the old engine was. The only difference being there weren't any grooves or any slots in there for you to take out the head bolts should you not want to take out the cam carrier. That's the only difference I saw. Apart from that, everything else seemed to be fine. There was the right marks, everything was all legitimate, and all was brand spanking new as it should. And the part number on the front as well did also match the updated superseded part number 2 on the VW site, as well as the VW catalog as well. So that was awesome. The other end of it, which was just the one I was pointing to, which is the high pressure fuel pump drive, it's a square. That was all perfectly fine as well. There was a little slot for the vacuum pump to be driven off of that too. So it was all lovely and ready to go from here. Now, and in this part, just quickly, I just thought I'll show you guys exactly what I meant. Basically, if you look at the camshaft right here, it's completely round. There is no grooves or any slots in it at all. Now, this is not a problem for me because normally when I'm taking the head off on an EA 888 engine, I usually always take the camshafts out. But if you don't want to do that, then you can, with the earlier generation engines, you can actually take the head off without having to take off the camshafts. But with the later engines, you can't. And you can see the grooves on my old damaged one are there, and on the new one they're not there. So that was the only difference that I noted, and apart from that, everything else seemed to be sort of normal. Everything seemed to be in the right order. Everything was all okay, with just the grooves were the only things that I didn't see on the new one. It doesn't make a difference to me. I'm pretty sure it won't make a difference to the way the operation of the camshaft is. It's just something I noted, so I just thought I'll give you guys an update on that. Now, moving on to this one, this is where I just show you guys what I've done. So basically the crank sprocket, as you can see, I've made two marks, one on the sprocket and one on the actual block. The block one refers to TDC. Now, when you are installing camshaft, you're not supposed to have the engine at TDC, because the pistons, as you're putting the camshafts down, can actually push on the valves and actually essentially bend the valves again without the engine even running. So the way I do it is I take out 90 degrees out of TDC, or be 90 degrees before TDC. Then I go ahead and install the camshafts, and then after that I go ahead and move it back to TDC, set the timing on the car or the engine, and basically lock everything into position and go from there. And in this part, as you can see, I'm just going ahead putting the camshafts in with plenty of lubrication on the bearing surfaces, as well as the camshaft lobes as well. And also this is good because when it comes to putting on the actual camshaft carrier, you'll be able to essentially eliminate any dry startup. So this is always a good practice to do from my experience anyway. Here is a new camshaft carrier, and as you can probably tell, I've already put some of the Durco HT sealant all around it, as you can probably see right here. And in a minute I'm gonna go ahead and assemble, not assemble, put on the engine lubrication on the actual bearing surface metal as well. The reason I do this on both the actual head as well as on this is to completely eliminate any dry startup. And as you probably just see me doing a demonstration here, the way I normally apply these is I usually squeeze the sealant out of the bottle, but it's very, very difficult. It hurts your thumbs really badly because the tools that come with it are no good at all. So once I put the sealant around it, which can be a little bit of an exhausting thing to do, hurts your hands, I go ahead and make swirl marks on it, and that just basically gives it a really nice texture. So as you're squeezing it down and it is getting squashed, there is no extra sort of the material is very well spread out, basically, in other words. So it's exactly what you want it. You don't want too much, you don't want lumps and lumps and lumps of it. You just want it to be just perfect. And as you can see, I'm just putting some extra lubrication on the bearing surfaces where the camshaft rides on, so you don't want any startup to be dry at all. And the benefits of having an engine lube versus engine oil is that engine lube is a lot more stickier, so even if you have the engine on a stand or on a floor, whatever, for a long time before you start it up, the lubrication is still there, unlike engine oil, which tends to run away. So it's always a good practice to use engine oil, engine lube, assembly lube, than engine oil, in my experience anyway. And as you can probably just tell, this will be the time where I pick up the camshaft carrier and then go ahead and install it. Now, I made a silly mistake of putting the extra metal pipes for the water coolant towards the turbochargers and other bits on before, so it will be a little bit of a tricky thing to do. You kind of have to angle it down, but if you did not have that in place, this is just simply slides on two little dowels, and it goes in spot on. So you need to make sure you line it up perfectly, and to do that you have two guys to help you do that on it. In this part, I just went ahead and just made sure all the sealing was squeezed out evenly, and just double checking my work essentially. At this point, I haven't put any of the bolts that hold the carrier down or the camshaft bridge down, so it's just a matter of basically just checking, making sure that the sealing is spread evenly, and you don't want to be putting too much on, otherwise it will go into the engine and you will have a very bad time. One thing that the machine shop told me, which I find very interesting, is that the bolts that you just saw a couple of seconds ago, these ones right here, these are the ones that came with the new head and the new camshaft bridge. The machine shop told me they look very puny, they're not looking very strong, so he said do not use the new ones, instead clean the old bolts and use the old bolts from the old camshaft carrier and then torque them down. The new ones, he said, don't use them because they don't look right. So I took his advice and I went ahead and used the old ones. And in this clip you can probably just see me trying to take all those bolts from the old head out, clean them with the brake cleaner nice and evenly and cleanly, and put them in nice even order, and then start torquing them down. Another thing I want to make very clear as well, that what I also did is on the head or the bottom of the head of the bolts that screw onto the camshaft carrier, I put some engine lube on it. The reason being is as I'm tightening them down and twisting them, they will prevent any kind of binding happening. So I just thought I'll make you guys aware of that as well. Here you can see me just showing you guys what everything, after securing everything down into its position, before we do the torque stage. You can see how the sealant has spread evenly across all sort of surface areas, so there's not excessive amount coming out, there's not too less either, it's just the right amount. You don't want lumps and lumps of it, because it will end up going inside the engine and then it will go into the oil pan and then you'll have a very bad time. So you need to make sure that it is all just right, not too much, not too less, just right. Here I'm just finally checking, make sure everything is all nice and leveled before I go ahead and do the torquing stage. Now before we do the torquing stage, I normally put a marker on top of the bolt and turn it 90 degrees. This will make sure that we are getting it perfect to the correct, not only torque settings of 8 Newton meters plus another 90 degrees. So it is very, very important that you do this correctly, otherwise you could have issues with not sealing properly, and you can also have issues with oil leaking as well, and just generally it will not look right. So yeah, this is all the work done on top of the cam carrier. So now it's just the matter of putting the locking pins for the camshafts in. Now if you remember earlier, I said how there's not any grooves in the camshaft. Now the reason this can be an issue is because when you're putting the spanner on the camshaft to twist them into the right position so you can lock them in with the locking tool, you can't do that with the new exhaust camshaft, because it hasn't got that extra groove in it. So what I had to do was essentially I had to use an extendable open end spanner, or an extendable spanner, adjustable spanner I should say. And basically on the back of the oil vacuum pump there is a square, and I had to basically put it on that and twist it into the right position, as you can see. And it took a few goes, but eventually I managed to get it perfect. And here you can see that both the timing marks are pointing towards a 12 o'clock position. Now the camshaft on the exhaust was to line it perfectly 110% with the marking on the back, is going to be a little bit 100 and is going to be a little bit past 12 o'clock position, but I didn't think that was sitting correctly, so I moved it back to 12 o'clock position. And the only way we're going to know if we've done a decent and perfect job of it is when we put the timing chain on. It will have two colored links on it, which should line up with the two markings on the exhaust and as well as the inlet camshaft. Once they line up and everything lines up on the bottom of the sprocket for the crankshaft, we should be fine. But it's very important that these are at 12 o'clock position and they match the little marking on the back of the cylinder head as well. You can probably just see the marking on the back of the camshaft just right there, and it is imperative that these are absolutely lined up as perfectly as possible, otherwise your timing could be a little bit off. But sometimes these have a little bit of movement, a little bit of a leeway in them, but you just have to make sure they are absolutely bang on. So here I was just double checking everything, just taking some photographs of my own personal evidence to make sure everything is all lined up. And essentially from here I was just cleaning up the surfaces right there for the camshaft lobe for the driving of the high pressure fuel pump, and I've also cleaned the heads of the bolts for the vacuum pump as well, ready for installing on the engine, and basically just removing any sort of dirt and grease on the vacuum pump so we get a nice and clean shiny part, or as close as possible to shiny and clean, because otherwise it just makes the whole engine look horrible. Now I do believe that there is a vacuum pump leak from the seals, but we will address that at a later date. The main thing at the moment was just to make sure everything is all working perfectly as good as it can, and it all looks nice and spotless, so we can see where future leaks will occur. It was a little bit of a faff to line up the groove on the camshaft with the vacuum pump inside, but it took a bit of trial and error, back and forth, on and off, but eventually we did manage to get it. And then after that, once I had that nice and tight, then I just went ahead, looped the inside of it up, ready for the installation of the high pressure fuel pump, which wasn't too bad to be fair as well. Then after that, tied the pipes up for the high pressure fuel pump to going towards the injector rail, and pretty much after that we were all ready for this to be completed and one stage closer to completion and ready for installation in the car. I'd just like to say a big thank you for everyone who watches these videos. I really appreciate the support, and if you guys have any suggestions on how to make these videos any better, how to make anything that I do better just to make it more entertaining, please tell me in the comments below. I apologize about the video and the audio today. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but hopefully we can fix that in the future so it should not happen again. Once again, thank you very much for watching guys, and hopefully I'll see you in the next part.